Welcome everyone. Today, we are diving into Microsoft Entra ID to master the core of identity and access management, creating and managing users and groups. Let's get started. To kick things off, what exactly is Microsoft Entra ID? Formerly known as Azure Active Directory, it is Microsoft's comprehensive cloud-based identity and access management service. Think of it as the ultimate gatekeeper for your organization. The absolute basics of managing this environment revolve around creating and managing users and groups. Why is this so important? Because accurately defining these objects is what allows you to provide secure, centralized access to all of your applications, devices, and cloud resources. Let's look at this high-level flowchart. At the top, we have Microsoft Entra ID acting as the central management plane. It branches down into our two main focuses, users and groups. Users drive authentication, proving who they are. Groups drive authorization, defining what they're allowed to do through role-based access control. Together, they converge to enable secure resource access across your environment. Now that we know what Entra ID is, let's break down the types of users. By definition, a user is simply an identity used to authenticate into your environment. For the basics, you need to understand where these users originate. Cloud-only users are created and managed directly in Entra ID, whereas directory-synchronized users are replicated from an on-premises Active Directory. Furthermore, we categorize them by their relationship to your organization. Member users are your actual employees, and guest users are external collaborators invited to your tenant. Why does this matter? Because properly classifying user types allows you to safely collaborate with partners while protecting internal assets. This diagram breaks down the taxonomy of an Entra ID user. Starting from the user object, we evaluate it on two fronts, origin and user type. The origin splits into cloud-only or synchronized. Simultaneously, the user type dictates if they are an internal member or an external guest. Understanding this matrix is step one before we actually create a user. So, how do we actually create a user? It's a very straightforward process. When you need to onboard a single new employee, you'll use the Azure portal. You simply navigate to Microsoft Entra ID, select the user's blade, and click New User. To get the basics right, you must fill out the mandatory fields, the user principal name, which acts as their login ID, their display name, and their initial password. You can either let Azure auto-generate a secure password for you or define one manually. Finally, you can assign them to a location and department before clicking Create. Let's walk through the creation sequence. The administrator starts by logging into the Azure portal and navigating to Microsoft Entra ID. From there, they open the user's blade and trigger the New User command. After inputting the required data like the UPN and display name, Entra ID processes the request and provisions the new user account instantly. Now, let's shift our focus to groups. What are they? Groups are logical units used to organize your users and devices. The primary reason we use groups is to streamline access management. Instead of assigning granular permissions to 100 individual users, you assign the permissions to one group and add the 100 users to it. In Entra ID, you must choose between two basic group types. Security groups are specifically designed to control access to your IT resources and applications. Microsoft 365 groups, on the other hand, are heavily geared toward user collaboration, granting members access to shared calendars and SharePoint sites. This diagram illustrates the fork in the road when creating a group. From the main Entra ID group object, you must choose Security or Microsoft 365. Notice the distinct purposes below them. Security groups map directly to resource access and policy application, while Microsoft 365 groups branch out into collaborative tools like shared mailboxes and teams. After selecting a group type, you must define its membership type. This dictates how objects actually get into the group. The basics cover three types: assigned, dynamic user, and dynamic device. Assigned is a manual process. You, as the administrator, physically add or remove the users. Dynamic membership is where the magic happens. By setting up specific rules, users or devices are automatically added or removed based on their properties, like their department. When should you use which? Use assigned for small, specific project teams, but always leverage dynamic when you need scalable, automated management across the enterprise. Here we visualize the three membership types branching out. The top branch is assigned, which leads directly to manual administrative action. The bottom two branches are dynamic user and dynamic device. Both of these bypass manual action and rely entirely on attribute-based rules to evaluate who or what belongs inside the group. Let's walk through how to actually create an assigned group in the portal. You will navigate to Microsoft Entra ID, select the group's blade, and click New Group. For the basics, you'll select Security as the group type and Assigned for the membership type. Give the group a clear name. As a best practice deep dive, always provide a detailed description so other admins know exactly what this group is for. Finally, you will manually search for your users, add them as members, optionally designate a group owner, and hit Create. This sequence maps the exact clicks required to build our group. The admin triggers the creation, inputs the core settings like security and assigned, provides the naming metadata, and finally performs the manual selection of members. The portal then finalizes the group provisioning. Let's dive deeper into dynamic groups. This is how modern enterprises scale. Instead of manual ticketing, dynamic groups use continuous query evaluation to automate membership. But there is a strict constraint. Your tenant must have a Microsoft Entra ID Premium P1 or P2 license to unlock this feature. How does it work? You construct a query. For instance, setting the job title, property to equal, Azure Administrator, will automatically sweep every matching user into the group. As an important deep dive constraint, you can create rules for users or rules for devices, but you can never mix user and device attributes in the exact same rule. Look at the automated flow here. It starts when a user's attribute changes, say they get a promotion. The system immediately asks, does this match our dynamic rule? If yes, they are added. If no, they are removed. This feeds into a continuous background processing loop that requires zero manual intervention from IT. For our final deep dive, we need to talk about bulk operations. When your company acquires another business, creating 500 users one by one is impossible. That's why we use bulk operations to create, invite, or delete users simultaneously. How do we do this? In the Azure portal, you can click Bulk Create to download a standard CSV template. You populate that spreadsheet with your new users, upload it, and Azure processes the batch. Alternatively, for heavy automation, you can use PowerShell to write a script that loops through an array of users and creates them programmatically in seconds. This diagram tracks the CSV bulk creation method. You start the operation in the portal, download the blank CSV template, and fill it out locally with your list of users. You then push it back to the portal where an Azure background job processes the file, eventually giving you a results log to review.